Hey everyone, Eric here. Welcome to the channel. In this video, we're doing something a little bit different. A couple weeks back, I got to sit down with literally one of my guitar heroes, Fred Mascherino from Breaking Pangaea, Taking Back Sunday, and now The Color Fred, to talk about a bunch of different things. Now, I released a video before this one that is actually a different section of the conversation that I had with Fred, and that section of the conversation revolved mostly around Fred's current projects on YouTube and creating songs. If you want to hear that conversation, I'm going to leave a card above and I'll link to it in the description below. But this conversation, this section of the conversation that I had with Fred revolves more around guitar-based, like guitar nerdy stuff, gear nerd type stuff, you know, about pedals, about guitars, amps, and recording specific tracks and different techniques for recording. So I thought it would make sense to break this out into its own video because we kind of shifted directions in this section of the conversation. Before we get into it though, I just want to send a gigantic thank you to all of you who watch these videos, all of you who subscribe and comment, as well as my Patreon fam, my supporters over on Patreon. I really appreciate all the support. If you'd like to learn more about how you can help the channel, I will leave a link in the description below. Let's go ahead and get into the conversation with Fred Mascherino from Breaking Pangaea, Taking Back Sunday, and The Color Fred. As we were talking before, my channel is about like pedal demos, like nerdy stuff, and I have a few selfish questions to ask.
Ask away, my brother.
My buddy Adam, big shout out to Adam. He's my brother. I love him. He told me, I remember very distinctly, we were like walking in a Walmart back in, I had to be like 2002. And I was like, dude, I need some like new music. And he was like, you should listen to this. And he pointed at Cannon to a Whisper. Oh. That was back when you bought music from Walmart. And I was like, okay.
Totally.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's sure. And he was like, yeah, this is how, I think he sold it to me as like, no, you know the song that says Taking Back Sunday? This is that album. Because in Sick Day, you say that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I bought it, I listened to it, and I'm still to this day, like the guitar sounds on that album are like one of my favorites.
Oh, wow.
Can you tell me what was the guitar setup for recording?
Okay, yeah, well, surprisingly simple. And just so everyone knows, like Cat Into a Whisper was the first full length of Breaking Pangaea, and we had 2 EPs and a full length. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in Taking Back Sunday yet. They were my friends.
Yeah.
I mentioned their name in that song Sick Day because they were just my friends. I thought it'd be funny they weren't big yet or anything. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, when I wound up in their band, when they lost a guitarist, I went back and played those songs later on. I was like, well, this is awkward, you know, the sound was my SG, which I have here. This is the SG Special. It used to have 2 pickups, but I took one out and had my friend who's a luthier make a custom pick guard, because I never used the other one, and the string often got caught under the lip of the pickup.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I wound up like taping it over for a while, but then that was stupid. So I just went with this. This is supposed to be a limited edition, but I don't know if it says it on the back, but I don't know if it actually is, because it's not supposed to come in Heritage Cherry for the special. It's normally the SG Standard that has this color.
Yeah.
So that's this is the guitar that I used on that stuff. Although I had stock pickups back then, now I have a custom-made pickup. I use these pickups. It's JGC pickups, jgcpickup.com. And this guy will basically make you whatever pickup you want. Like, for example, my friend was getting a pickup made, and I called, and that's how I found out about him. He's actually in my town in Westchester, PA, but he does a lot of long distance work. And I called and I said I wanted the pickup. He said, "Oh, I'm going to make you the same one as I'm making your friend Vince." I said, No. Vince is like a metalhead.
Yeah.
He plays like hardcore music, and I don't do that at all. And okay, well, I'm actually going to change the wire that I use to wrap it then, and how much sustain do you want, how much gain? And I was able to. I actually sent him some old Breaking Pangaea recordings that said, "This is like a very clean recording of my guitar. I want it to sound like this still."
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a couple of these, one for this, and I have a white SG as well.
Nice.
And we're actually talking about releasing like those as a Fred pickup. So we might do that in the next year. We just have to sit down and plan it.
Yeah, put me on that list, please.
Okay. So that's
one.
That's the guitar that I used, and then I used the same guitar head. It's a JCM 800 Marshall. It's a 100 watt,
mm-hmm.
Which is a little cleaner at higher volumes.
Yeah.
And then my cabinet is 1970s Marshall straight cab, and it's from it's old. It's from the 70s. It has original greenbacks in it. Those greenback speakers, when I took it apart, I learned they weren't really called greenbacks. I don't know what they called them back then. They didn't say greenback on them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just green plastic on the back of them.
Okay.
So that's where the name came from. And I guess when they made other ones, they would just say, no, the ones with the, they just say Marshall Celestion and they're green plastic. So those things are really special. I use those, when I was with Taking Back Sunday, we recorded the album Louder Now with Eric Valentine, who's worked with like Slash and really, big bands. And he was like, this cabinet, like he said, the JCM I had was the best sounding JCM he had ever recorded, but he thought a lot of the sound had to do with how good the cabinet was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the rig that I used from Breaking Pangaea until present day, really. We were a 3-piece band, Breaking Pangaea, and so I used a volume pedal to clean up and get distorted. The funny thing about Count It to Whisper is it's very live.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't double the guitars or
really.
No, there's only the last song, the guitar gets doubled on the loud parts.
Okay.
But it's almost, as much as I can think of, it's all just one guitar, one bass, and drums.
Mm-hmm.
And and to be honest, when I listen back, I'm like, why didn't we think to beef it up a little more?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so what we were live. Honestly, a lot of people thought we were better live than them, but that recording is very honest,
Yeah.
So, and of course, Cat Into a Whisper was because we were into dynamics as a 3-piece, and we used to practice 3 times a week because we paid a lot of money for this rehearsal spot, and we were all broke, and we're like, well, we have to use it if we're going to pay it. So,
yeah.
But we had a lot of control over the sound, being just the 3 of us. So we could get really loud and then down to a whisper. And so that's what came, all that was done. It wasn't really studio magic. It was the guy who recorded us was just a really good engineer and got really pristine sounds, but there wasn't a lot of it wasn't Pro Tools. It was on tape with like a mixing board, and that was it. So
yeah, nice. That's one thing that I love about like Breaking Pangaea in general, but your playing also specifically is like your use of dynamics, and like how you kind of ride the line between like distorted and clean. That always always just really spoke to me.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just a guy playing, and it's nothing else. There weren't any other pedals. Sadly, it's a pedal channel, but at that time, I had not found the beauty of those pedals, and mostly because I didn't have the money. I was just like a broke college kid, So.
Yeah. Like whenever I started, like the first real amp I got was like a JCM 2000, and the only pedal I
Yep.
had was the channel switching pedal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So on that one, what kind of like mics were you using? Like, how did you mic up the cabinet? Or I guess maybe not necessarily on that, but like, how do you typically mic up a cabinet for recording?
Yeah, so I have usually two mics, and I like to make one more bassy and one more trebly. So in the past, I would have used just a SM57, which is this very simple mic, but always works. And then I would also use Sennheiser 421, which is like a tom mic, but it gave me more low end out of the cabinet.
Okay.
And then on that album, we were using ribbon mics as well. We did on that album, we recorded the guitar in a room by itself. So we had one mic very close to the speaker, and then a ribbon mic maybe 5-6 feet out.
Okay.
And I used to like to do that a lot when there was just one guitar. When I double guitars, I don't like miking from far away as much.
Probably gets pretty muddy that way, right?
I've been getting into. I got ribbon mics from SE Electronics. They call it the Voodoos, the VR1 and VR2. And so I've been using those. They're down in my studio, but I'd show them to you. But they're neat mics and more hardy than ribbon mics. We actually broke a ribbon mic when we were recording Canada Whisper. I was screaming into it, and the ceramic broke.
Oh my gosh!
But for these are actually built for roadworthy, so the SE Electronic ones.
Nice, yeah, because the ribbon mics are. I mean, I've never used one, but I mean, from what I've heard, they're kind of like typically more fragile.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they are. So I don't know. I'm not going to test how fragile the Voodoos are, but I'm told the VR1 is, I talked to some, I posted online that I got one, and a sound guy that I'm friends with who tours with big bands, he hit me up and was like, that's my favorite mic on stage. He's like, that's the one I use. So I assume if he's touring on the road, it's not that fragile. Yeah.
And that's what you want, because I'm sure breaking a mic doesn't feel good.
No, it was awful. And the same thing with guitars, in the old days, when I was young, as I mentioned, it was, the end of the 80s, the late 80s. And I had like the Floyd Rose Ibanez RG550. That was my thing. And I wound up owning like 3 of those things. But like they were not the best road worthy for a guy who's not a tech.
Yeah.
Because, you bang them around, you're jumping around on stage. I did break the neck on maybe all of them.
Oh, man.
And I fixed them all, but it was hard to stay in tune, that kind of thing. So yeah. That's when I started to go toward the Gibson guitars at the time.
Nice. Well, I kind of wanted to stay on the recording topic a little bit. So
yeah.
You've had the experience of like everything, like essentially like low budget in the early days to breaking Pangaea, where you guys probably had a little bit bigger budget, into like a more professional studio. But then you had the experience of Taking Back Sunday, which is like the highest of high production recordings.
Warner Brothers, where do you want to go? Pick a place,
Yeah, and that's insane. And not many people have that. Well, I mean, some people do, but then maybe they're not sharing their knowledge as much as you do now. And I was just wondering, like, what's kind of like the big takeaway, let's just say from maybe in general recording, but also specifically for like guitar, from those experiences that you like to share?
So I like to use multiple guitar tracks, and that was sort of one of the main things that I learned how to do. And for me, it wasn't about finding one sound that was the ultimate sound. Because when you hear an album and you're like, man, I wish I could get that sound, you know, what you're hearing is a combination of sounds in a lot of cases, you know. And like Jimmy Page, he used to run 2 amps and play once, but it was coming out of 2 places. But we have so many, you know, he was limited on tracks to an extent, whereas we're not. So what I like to do is, even when I'm recording, I produce a lot of other bands nowadays, and I'll let them use, you know, their setup that they love. So their guitar, their head, usually my cabinet, and we'll get that sound. And then based on what they have as a sound, I either need to thicken it up or make it more piercing through, and I'll have an array of other guitars, and I'll say, why don't we do a second track with this Les Paul, and your sound will suddenly get huge. And then when you double that, it's what and so sometimes the sound, and I learned this from Lou Giordano, who did the first Taking Back Sunday record that I was a part of, and also the Color Fred full length he recorded. He would have a sound that I thought was kind of ugly. I would be like, man, this is not what I consider a good guitar sound. But he would layer it in with mine, and suddenly mine had all this character to it and feeling. And so that's been something that I think I've passed on the most to anyone who records with me. And I'm going to eventually get into that with a lot of my videos, but that's kind of actually my specialty, is tracking guitars. That's what I feel really excited about, the guitar sounds I've been able to record even here, because it's all by instinct and feel. But a lot of it nowadays has to do with pedals, because now I'm using I had this JMP Marshall, which is before JCM in the 70s. They had the JMPs, and you know, it's not as high gain as the JCMs. So you know, I start to get different shades of distortion using that, and now that amp is much more useful to me because of the pedals that I use with that. And I have, you know, some clean amps as well. I have a Fender Princeton here from the 70s,
nice
combo amp, and I always run them down. I have a cabinet in the basement that's screaming down there, and I'm up in the control room upstairs where I'm not having to have it break my eardrums. And I have an orange here, and that, you know, a lot of different. There's a Mesa around, and here's a Bad Cat. I love this stuff, as we all do. It's an addiction.
It is an addiction.
So I'll just bust out, you know. But the one thing that I don't do is go, okay, well, the Marshall JCM is the best sound in my opinion, so we're going to use my SG and my JCM, and then let's double it with the JCM and the Les Paul. I go, no, we have that sound. Let's see what the Les Paul and the orange sound like together, and let's adjust the orange amp to complement the other one, because we want almost like bass players used to use bi-amps in the like 70s, where they had like a 15-inch speaker on the bottom, and they would send the low end to that, and then like a low pass filter, and then the top would be 410s, and they'd send the string noise to that with a tweeter. That's kind of almost the same rationale, not to that extent, but I sort of take like, well, this guy's guitar sound is awesome, but it's also kind of thin, so I'm gonna thicken it up with this other, with the, you know, this hollow body, or it's not like the SG is not poking through quite enough, so I'm gonna grab a P90 guitar, and it's really gonna start to pierce. And I'll save the P90 guitar, and I have a Silvertone. This thing is from the 1960s.
Oh, nice.
And these pickups are microphonic, like you can talk into them. And I'll save something like this for special section, like the bridge of a song, or there's a guitar part that I really want to be pretty, and I just put this in, and it just suddenly sounds like, you know, it went from sounding like an emo band to like the Replacements.
Okay.
You know, some cool, you know, 80s band, and you're like, wow, how'd they do that? And, you know, new wave or something, you know. So that's the kind of thing we did on the NXS song. And that's also the one time I did break that rule on this new song, Attention, the guitar solo, I doubled both sides, both speakers with your pedal.
Okay.
And I believe it was my SG and my Marshall. And the reason I did that is there's, you know, there is a sound for when you double up the same sound. Mm-hmm. And, you know, some of the guys I liked in the 80s, like Steve Vai, would do that. And that creates a certain stickiness, like it's all cohesive that way. Mm-hmm. It's not really as good for vintage sounding rhythm guitars, but that you want like the combination that I've been talking about. Yeah. So I'm gonna have I kind of like doing it the whole different realm. So it's not all or nothing, but like I like doubling solos simply because I feel like, well, I can, so let's, like, it's like a shreddy, just I'm playing it about as fast as I can. Yeah. And I'm like, now let's double it and see if I can play it again, you know? And if I do, it's like really magical, but.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, like, Iommi in Black Sabbath, like those early records, he would just double it, and like, you could tell he was not playing the same thing all the time. It was mostly on.
Yeah, but there's almost like a tuning thing going on because like bending the string or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a sound. That's what I mean. Like you can do it any way you want, but like usually I like making a soup, you know, with a bunch of ingredients.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to try that because I have multiple amps right here.
Yeah.
And I love you put out a video a while back about like using different guitars for different parts in a song, and I had never thought about that. And like,
yeah,
it just makes all the sense.
Yeah, that's a short video, but it's pretty. It clarifies it pretty good because I go through each guitar from like the more beefy to the most thin, mm-hmm. and I kind of go, well, this is my rainbow of sounds, and that's what I pick from. I go, okay. He's, you know, this sound is lacking this, so I'm going to add this. And sometimes, you know, I'll pick a guitar and we'll do it, and I'll go, that's not right. Not that one. Hold on. And I run in the basement and get something else. I'm like, this is the one. You know?
Awesome. Well, dude, I don't want to take too much of your time. I just want to thank you so much. And before we wrap it up here, to the watchers, where can they find you? Where can they interact with you?
The best place is the Color Fred YouTube channel. Go subscribe there. And I'm always on there I do a lot of premieres where I am on there texting, you know, messaging with you guys on the comments. And I also, every Sunday, I do a live stream at 9 a.m. Eastern. It's a bit early for you West Coasters, yeah. but 10 a.m. Every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, New York time. Pretty much every week I get on, I play acoustic for about an hour, and I play music from all the bands that I've played in. And yeah, I'm just having fun, you know, putting out as much music as possible, and hopefully get out and play live by the end of the year with the Color Fred.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Real quick, where can people find the new songs and all the songs that you've released over this year?
So all our songs would be streaming everywhere. There's a playlist on the YouTube channel because all the songs go up on YouTube, but they're also on Spotify. On the Color Fred Spotify, there is a playlist of all the newest songs because I've been putting out music with that since '07. So but I took a break. So this whole new batch is about 8 up there right now that are in a playlist called new songs. And any of the streaming service you have, Apple Music, Amazon, it's on all of them. So
it's everywhere.
Yeah. I try to get myself out there as much as I can. But to be honest, the word of mouth has been the best thing for me because we're not with a label. Mm-hmm. We're very DIY, and it's been better that way because I feel like I'm getting to know the people that listen to us, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, my pleasure, Eric. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this conversation that I had with Fred. I hope you enjoyed this format of video. It's a new thing here on the channel, but hopefully you liked it, and hopefully I can get to do it again. It was an honor and unbelievable that I actually got to talk to Fred. So this is all wild. I'm all smiles. I hope you're all smiles. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe, and I will talk to you in the next video.